Thanks for joining us on Coast to Coast Pest Talk.
Guys, welcome back to part 2 of our conversation with Foster at the Pest Posse. We're going to be going through some listener questions. Let's jump in.
Yes, this is the lightning round, and Foster hasn't heard any of these, so
it's all cold, people.
Totally cold. We're jumping in with this. Okay, the first one we have, and these are all listener questions that came in for Foster about sales. So why is there friction between sales and service departments?
Oh my gosh, that is like
loaded, right?
That is so loaded. How politically correct do I want to be with this?
No political correctness.
Yeah, well, you can answer this 20 different ways to Sunday on this one, but I think that really the friction between the sales and the service is because there's no communication. A lot of companies, especially you start getting into those bigger ones, it's sell, it's leave it. Let's get the sales. Let's just rock and roll. Let's go fast. I'm not worried about it. I'm going to overpromise to that customer what I'm doing because that salesperson doesn't have the experience, and which is really sad. And I've seen that, and that's why there's that friction, and it's even worse when you get into commercial stuff. For those salespeople that have like a big account that might be third-party audited or has got some more details for it, and they just sell it and then they just flip it off to the supervisor or just give it to the service technician and just say handle it without any explanation or going out to the technician. And I think it really, when you look at that question, it boils down to one thing. It's the salesperson not giving a flying you-know-what about their job and about their sales and about the customer. That's really what it boils down to. And I'm sorry if you people that are out there that are selling and you do this and you're offended with what I said, I'm sorry, but maybe you need to look inward, because that's where I really feel I exceeded with what I did, because I went out a lot of times to these jobs with the technician. I helped them set them up. I introduced them to the customers, and I made sure that the tech was set up for success, and I didn't overpromise and oversell something.
Do you think that was a little bit from coming from a technician background,
100%.
like moving into sales? You kind of know what you're up against when you're facing some of these things.
Yeah, 100%. That's where it came from, because I had the same experience where there was that disconnect, and I would be handed stuff, and the salesperson would say, "Just go out there, put out 2 bait stations by the loading dock, put a couple tin cats out there, you'll be good." Yeah. And that's for that's for 2 high-tech towers in downtown San Jose. One is 15 floors. The other one is 18 floors. And you're telling me to put 2 bait stations out of the loading dock and a couple of tin cats around? I'm like, I totally upsold that whole account.
Yeah.
Because the salesperson just was an idiot. And I'm sorry, but they were. They were just looking at the numbers. Yeah. So that's what I get into, too, when I talk about sales. Don't worry about the numbers. The sales will come.
Yeah.
So, have some respect for the service technicians, because they're doing the job. They're making your paycheck, and they can make you lose that sale real quick. So,
yeah. Would you say with that is there an implicit recommendation that your sales team has some level of experience out in the field to some degree, at least?
Yep. And I go through that with the book. Especially if you're a salesperson and you've never been in the industry, slow down, take the time, learn the industry. Sign up for Pest Posse TV, get the Pest Posse Academy training courses. Ride with that service technicians at your company. Don't ride with them for a day. Don't ride with them for 2 days. Do it over several months. Ride several days, several weeks with the tech, especially if you're new in the industry. Go out and see what's there. Go do the services. Go in the trenches. Go crawl under that nasty kitchen and see what the techs do. Go out there at night if it's a night service. Beat yourself up. It's the only way you're going to be successful at sales. If you know the industry and you respect what the service technician is doing, it's the only way you're going to be successful. So,
yeah. And don't you, as the salesperson, salespeople can be sort of like goal focused. They want to make a sale. They want to, get the commission, whatever. I think that if you are willing to slow down and do these things you're recommending, it makes that salesperson that much more valuable to their prospect. And so now they start to immediately differentiate themselves when they talk to a prospect. A prospect can tell if you've never done anything. Oh. And so if you've gone on a bunch of ride-alongs, you've seen the follow-up of what happens after the sale. That salesperson is going to be a much more formidable and capable salesperson moving forward.
100%, Andy. 100%.
Yeah.
And it's tough because some companies do have quotas that you need to meet and sales quotas you need to meet. I've never liked that. And thank goodness I worked in an environment where we didn't have that. And I think sales quotas for pest control, yes, in a way, but I think more in a soft way and not in a traditional sales quota way, because pest control sales is totally different than anything you're ever going to sell. And trying to have those hard quotas is difficult. I think every company should set a minimum that salesperson should obtain every month and incrementally increase it off of the seasons, off of the area, and not be like stratosphere because this guy sold iPhones at the Apple store and sold them, to everybody and their brother. You're setting that guy up for failure if you're giving him that same type of expectation selling a service. So
Do you address that in your book as well, Foster?
Yep. I go over what's the difference between a service and what's the difference between selling a product. And you need to understand that as a salesperson. And it's a big difference. And you need to break that down. And I do that in the master class too. It's important to know that. You have to.
Yeah.
Speaking of differences, next question is, how different, Foster, is residential versus commercial sales?
One is a nice, juicy apple. And the other one is that big watermelon that's about ready to crush you at any moment. And the big watermelon, that's the commercial. I mean, let's be honest. It's a totally different. There really is no comparison with them. Commercial services, I'm sorry, you're never, ever going to learn every commercial account and learn everything about every single commercial account, because you're going to run into something that you've never done. I mean, how many people know what a LEED certified building is in the industry? That is something that came on a number of years ago. I think the momentum of it is, I wouldn't say waning, but it's starting to creep in some weird areas that people are like, what are you talking about? This building that's 4 stories high and it's a LEED certified building. What are you talking about? I'm used to just killing bugs. So you guys need to understand there's a big difference between the two. Sales cycle are going to be different. The people that you're going to deal with are going to be different. The mentality of those people and their expectations and their pest levels, the thresholds, they're going to be totally different than residential, commercial. So you guys need to understand that. And then I go into that and I talk to that about, as far as the book, what's the difference, and learning that difference and what it is, because it's really important, especially if you're selling, residential, commercial are totally, they're not one and the same, and they never will be. And if you think they are, you're doing it wrong. I'm sorry.
You're doing something. We must have the smartest listeners, because these questions are like fire, right?
They are. They're good. They're great. This is stuff I go into with my book.
Yeah.
And this is stuff that's never been said, as you can see with these questions.
Yeah.
This is stuff that's never been said. And
For
it has to be said, because I also had the opportunity, at the company I was with, I was so successful at sales. A lot of times they would hire a guy off the street to do sales at X branch. Well, they would bring him down to me for a day or so to ride with, to see how the guy's temperament was, how he was, to talk to him about things. And a lot of times those guys wouldn't work out because they'd be selling a service and they're like, product, they'd be selling a product and now they're trying to sell a service. And I try telling them the difference with that just in a small amount of time. And it just goes over their head. They're like, I don't need to know that. And then they just end up not working out or not taking a job because I scared them.
Okay, so that's perfect. That actually leads into the next listener question. How long should it take for a new sales rep to ramp up?
See, I didn't even know these questions, and I'm just segueing into every single one. Isn't this great?
Yeah.
Because I'm a professional, and this is what
That's
I do.
right. That's right.
There is no time frame, to be honest with you. There really isn't any time frame. Everybody's different. Everybody sells differently. Everybody's got a different mental capacity for things. But if you really want to try to put a time frame on somebody, it's hard. I mean, somebody that's really new into the pest control industry, let's be honest, you got to at least give them a year. You got to at least give them a year to learn the industry that much. And that's what they're going to learn in a year. And giving them enough rope to help them with that. But give them enough rope to hang themselves and definitely having some consequences. Because if they're going in, we know it costs money to have them there. They still got to be able to sell stuff every month. But don't give them those high expectations. That's what I think. I mean, I think giving the guy a pressure that's totally new in the industry and saying, okay, well, in 3 months, you got to start selling 35,000 a month. You've just totally just imploded that guy of day one. I'm sorry. He's not going to do it unless you're selling grain silos and commodity fumigations. And yeah, like Andy, you're selling, commercial stuff, but even then that's hard to do that. So you need to have enough, you need to have enough rope to have that guy hang himself and have consequences. But if it's somebody that's new in the industry, that's been like a commercial service technician and transferring over into sales, dude, you give him 3 to 6 months. And if he hasn't started producing at a high level, he needs to go, because that means he doesn't have the mental capacity for sales.
Sure.
And that's really what it boils down to. You got to be able to take that rejection with sales, and you got to be able to know that you're not going to sell everything. And that's one thing I did. I struggled at first. I mean, I was like a hamster on a wheel. I just didn't know where I was going, and my sales suffered. But I don't know, man. I don't know if I heard it somewhere, to be honest with you, or if I just had like one of these, like, I had it in a dream moment, but I just like woke up one day and I'm like, I'm going to stop worrying about the sale. I'm going to stop worrying about the dollars coming in. I don't have the capacity for this anymore. And I got to figure this out. And I got to stop worrying about running and gunning to every single little thing that phone call comes through, or I get a LinkedIn lead, or maybe I got shoved one phone lead because the other 3 salespeople just couldn't handle it. They were overwhelmed with their phone leads. And, I never took phone leads after, a few months of being on the job. But yeah, I mean, just once you stop forgetting about the sales, it all comes flooding to you.
Wow. What's better in your opinion, phone or in-person sales?
I would say in person all day long. Trying to sell stuff over the phone, especially pest control services, when we're talking about that, you can kind of do it with residential and you can kind of get away with it a little bit. But really anything else, I mean, really, you should be doing all this stuff. You should be doing it in person. So in-person selling 100%.
Wow. That was the most definitive one right there.
Yeah, I know.
That was
Go waffling with that one.
that was a fastball right down the middle. Okay. Next listener question. What is the best pay structure? Commission only, salary plus commission, or salary only?
Again,
and if there's another option, feel free.
And I really liked, the model that I worked under, and I really liked. It's really going to depend on the company. I mean, I really think doing the small base salary plus commission for that initial services minus equipment, and then paying the service technician as what we call a pay as you go to build up your bank. That's what I had at my company. And it was great. It was phenomenal. Yeah, I got paid less on the initial, but I didn't have any chargeback. So I didn't get paid the whatever amount for the full year. I got that paid. Of course, if it was a single service, I would get that paid up front. And those would be the big money things like bird work. If I did a big fumigation on a house, or if I did a big bed bug job, those would be big hits. I'd get commission on that right away. But those commercial accounts, I get paid. I love having the small. I think to me, the best mindset is that small base salary and then getting that commission for those initial services and the pay as you go bank. Because my bank, man, I built that thing up to, it was a crazy amount where I knew every month, and it took the pressure off of me. I knew every month that I had in my bank, like $3,000 of passive income that was coming in. And that was great because
will you explain that like in layperson terms? Because I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah. So the pay as you go. Yeah. So the pay as you go model, what that is that the salesperson would get paid every time that account was serviced. So let's say you had a commercial account that was $175 a month. Well, I don't use 5s and 0s, and that's another story on that. But so obviously, the service technician is gonna get paid for service net, but the salesperson is gonna get like 10% commission on that every time it's serviced. Yeah, it's only $17, but 17 times 100 times 200 times 300, that starts adding up for that technician. And it guarantees that he's going to have a quality sale that's going to stay on. Now, the one thing I really, really hated with that is the company I was with is that after a year, it would just drop off. It's like you're done. I really think that, it should be, an 8 to 10% for the first year, probably a 5 to 4% for the second year, and then 1% for the entire life that the contract's on after that. Because that's going to give the incentive for that salesperson to sell a quality service. So that's really what it is. Pay as you go. Give that salesperson a little snippet of that monthly that comes in, or quarterly, or every other month, whatever it is. Whenever it's serviced, you give that salesperson a little bit of that.
Yeah, there's an interesting side effect of that too, in a good way, where if a salesperson is prone to undersell an account, you're likely going to lose that account. And then they're going to get $17.50 for 1 month that you did it. They undersold it, and then that thing cancels and it's gone.
Yep.
So, so there's a little bit of a vested interest in that salesperson to spec that job correctly and sell it properly with good expectations, so that it stays on for the whole year or multiple years, if depending on how that sunsets.
Well, yeah, and that's and I've heard people say, oh, well, yeah, paying that base plus commission, you're just making the salesperson lazy and he's not going to want to sell. Well, sorry, folks, you've set up the wrong expectations for that salesperson, and you don't have consequences for their actions in place. Because just because you're paying him this model doesn't mean that you shouldn't set up that he's got to have, $8, $10, $15,000 of new revenue coming in every single month. And if he doesn't, there's consequences. He's either going to lose his job, he's going to have a pay cut, or whatever. You put those systems in place. So he's going to want to continue to hustle and to do things.
Yep.
Great. Give us some pointers on where do you find good salespeople?
Oh my gosh, that is so hard. That's just that's not just salespeople. That's service technicians. That's the whole entire industry, Gabe, that you're talking about. Where do we find those people? You could
just ask, where's the best place to hunt for unicorns?
That's exactly it. And that's not just for a salesperson.
For anybody.
That's for your operations managers. That's for your supervisors. That's for your service technicians, for your CSRs. It just goes down the line. It's hard these days because you have to set your company up where it has values in place that are going to draw those people to it. And if you're just a company that's getting the almighty dollar, and you're not doing things for the community, or you're not doing things for your service technicians or your personnels, and you're not having that camaraderie in there, and you're not building that brand, the people are going to go, they're going to go other places. So really trying to look for somebody, it's hard. You can go online. We've got all the online job boards now that you can go on. You just name your flavor. I think doing, I think if you're really looking for some tips, I think, going to your community college and looking at those employment days and looking at when they do those community events where they have those, those little mini shows where they have employers there offering jobs, doing those on a consistent basis. Doing something once and thinking you're going to get something out of it, you guys are just asking yourself for failure. You got to continually do those job fairs and have those and look where they're at in your community. Look at your colleges, look at the county buildings, look at the Chamber of Commerce, look at all that stuff. So if you're really looking for a place, I would say, that's doing that in person and going to those job fairs and making it something fun when you go there. Just don't be it that I'm trying to grab a body and I'm trying to grab something. Make something fun out of it. Make sure that your company why is at the forefront there of that. Not just that this is XYZ Pest Control, I'm hiring. Put your why right out there at the front. Put it on the table. Express it. When you're talking to the person about it, don't tell them about the job. Soft sell them about your why. What's the company about? Because then that's going to gravitate them to, hey, maybe I want pest control. Never thought of that. You guys sound like you got a good company. Tell me what positions do you have available? That's going to come to you. And that's the way you really want to do it.
It sounds like Foster's been listening to Coast to Coast Pest Talk.
I think I have.
By the sounds of that answer, that sounds familiar, man. Okay, it does. So we got 2 questions left.
Okay,
we're gonna make it.
We're not gonna make it. We're gonna do this.
We got this. How often should you meet with a salesperson for accountability meetings?
I would say, so you're not really getting to, I mean, if it's a new salesperson, I mean, I would do something probably every other week. If it's a new salesperson, I wouldn't get in their face every week. It's just too much micromanaging. Give them, like I said, enough rope to handle. If it's a seasoned one, it's been there for a while, really monthly, you should be meeting with those guys and not making an hour beat up session. It should just be a quick session once a month, and maybe once a quarter, do something fun. Go out of the office, do something fun. If it's just taking them to lunch, maybe go throwing darts, playing pool, whatever, because that's going to build the morale. And you really should be doing that with your whole team. So new person, somebody new in the team, every other week, somebody that's seasoned, been there for a little while, you should do them at least monthly.
Okay. Okay, Gabe,
Great.
last one.
Last listener question. How many new prospects should a salesperson be adding to their pipeline per day?
That's a tough one because every area and every place that you're going to go out is going to have a different, set of commercial accounts, residential accounts. Prime example here. Okay. I'm in Silicon Valley. Okay. Basically from our county borders to our county borders. Well, if you got bad traffic, it might be 45 minutes. Well, you look at some county and in that 45 minutes, we've got everything under the sun, from Yahoo to SAP to, Google to just name it. And we've got Tesla. I mean, all the electric car companies. But you get into something else that might be in somewhere else, USA, they might have a small town that's only got 200,000 people. And it's a small area. And then you got another 45 minutes. And then now you're in the other town. So you really
so I gotta just drop this in there. A small town that only has 200,000 people. There's 150,000 people in the city of Syracuse, where I am. A small town is 200,000. I wish we had 200,000 people. Okay,
but I mean,
yeah, it's different.
You got to look at that. So putting a number on there, I also hate number of prospects to put on. I mean, it's just a hard number. You should try to have an idea. And it's really going to depend on your territory. That's why I'm not trying to waffle on it. It's different. Every area is different. You have to look what's in your area. What are you selling? What are you doing? Are you selling residential stuff only? Well, that number is probably going to be higher. Yeah, maybe you want to try to get, 30 new accounts every single month of residential. Maybe you want to get 50 new accounts, maybe 100. It's really going to depend on how condensed everything is and where you're at and what you have in your area. If you've got you've got an area, I mean, we could just talk about like here in California, basically the vegetable bowl of California, Fresno, Merced, all these areas, Central California area, Modesto, Stockton, those are all small towns, 100, 200,000 people. And there's not a lot of commercial stuff in there, but there's a lot of food processing stuff, but they're all spread out. So you're not going to get all of those on every single month because there's going to be a lot of national chains in there as well, too. So it's a really hard question to come up with as far as a number.
So it's a lot of evaluate your market, what kind of market penetration you already have as a company, how much room there is to grow potentially, and then sort of come up with some kind of gauge from that, I would think.
That's exactly. And make it a soft gauge and don't be hard on it. But again, have some consequences. If the guy's not selling anything, he's not bringing in anything, and it's been 2 months, you need to have a talk with that person.
Yeah.
We should be bringing in something, especially if you're just initially throwing them some phone leads. I mean, phone leads really should come in. Those should be warm leads. Those should be 80% sold when they come into the office. And it's just it's the salesperson going in there and closing it, taking that other 20% and taking them over it. So that's what I think.
Awesome. Well, that exhausts our listener questions this time. I think we'll have to do this again. This was fantastic. Some of the best content we've had, Foster.
Thank you. Yeah, no, this was good. I enjoyed this. It was fun. I was a little worried, but we got through it. I thought it was some good stuff, and it really tied into a lot of what I've talked to you about in the book and a lot of the values you guys have here at Coast to Coast. So yeah, I thought that was great that we were able to kind of bring that in and just kind of segue that all together. So
awesome. We're going to have to do this again.
Yes, thanks so much for coming on. All right, I'll close us out. Guys, thanks for listening to another episode of Coast to Coast Pest Talk. Foster, thank you so much, brother, for joining us. Great to have you, and we'll have to do it again.
Definitely.
All right.
Take care.